The doctor walks into the room and says your mother needs a heart transplant and will only last 10 more days without one. With the limited amount of organ donors in the US, your mom does not have a very good chance at receiving the transplant. Only if this country had more organ donors, your mom would probably receive the life-saving transplant that she so desperately needs. The United States is in an organ donation shortage, and non-donors should become registered donors in order to save more lives. Even though it is easy to become a registered donor, there are many people who have not registered. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, on their website in 2017, there are currently more than 130 million people in the U.S. that are signed up to be a donor. Even though this number may seem like a lot, it's only 54% of all U.S. adults that are registered donors. And on top of that, there are more than 116,000 people that are waiting for a transplant right now. Last year, there were only 33,611 people that received a transplant. That means that only 29% of the people on the list are actually lucky enough to get the transplant that they need. Each day, lives are affected by organ donors and a lack of them. There's an average of around 80 people per day that receive some type of transplant. Sadly though, there's an average of 20 people who die every day waiting for a transplant that was unable to occur due to an insufficient amount of donated organs. According to Life Science, in their 2015 article, every 10 minutes a new person's name is added to the transplant list. The people that are on this transplant list may wait anywhere from a couple hours all the way to years to get a transplant, or if they're even lucky to get a transplant. Some of them don't even get transplants. This just shows that the donors need to increase because the amount of people waiting for transplants is going way ahead of them. According to the Washington Post, in their 2014 article, the amount of living and non-living donors has shown little change in the past 10 years. Throughout the past 10 years though, the amount of patients waiting for a transplant has gone up by 40,000 people. This information shows that there's an increase in patients seeking donors, but not an increase in donors. Not only is there an increase in transplants, but there is an increase in the amount of money being spent by the government to pay for treatment. This treatment occurs because the waiting list for a transplant is so long that patients either become too ill or look for other forms of treatment options. In 2011, there were $34 billion of taxpayer money spent by Medicare on renal dialysis. This money would not have to be spent if there were more donors. In conclusion, the United States is in an organ donor shortage, and more donors should become registered. The two main problems that our country is facing is a shortage of organ donors and a rise in the amount of people looking for organs. This country needs more organ donors. I hope that by listening to my speech, you have realized the problem that our great country is facing. And please, sign up to be an organ donor.